A black woman was fired for bringing her sick child to work, till her new boss walked in and said, "I was that kid." "What the hell is that kid doing here, Kesha? This is an office, not a daycare." Victoria Crawford's sharp voice pierced through the conference room like a blade, causing every head to turn. Kesha instinctively pulled her son Jordan closer. The 6-year-old clung to her, his breathing shallow from an early morning asthma attack. "I'm so sorry, Miss Crawford," Kesha said steadily, despite the storm rising inside her. "My babysitter canceled last minute. I didn't want to miss the Miller Project presentation. I've been coordinating it for 3 months. Her voice held, even as she felt the weight of judgment from her colleagues. Victoria strutted forward, heels clicking like gunshots on marble. The executive director of Morrison & Associates, Victoria had made a name for herself by stepping on people she deemed inferior. Her privileged, unblemished ascent had never known the struggle Kesha lived every day. "Company policy is clear," Victoria sneered. "No exceptions. You're fired, effective immediately." She turned to the room, addressing the stunned employees like a queen, issuing a decree. "Let this be an example to you all." Professionalism, above all else. Kesha stood frozen for a second. She was 29 and had just been humiliated and terminated in front of everyone she had sacrificed so much to support. She'd worked weekends, holidays, missed birthdays, all too. Prove she belonged in a world that made her prove it twice as hard. Jordan began coughing. Kesha pulled out his inhaler with trembling hands, not from fear, but rage. She'd only gotten 3 hours of sleep after rushing him to the ER. Bringing him to work was her only option. She wasn't just a mother, she was the most efficient employee they had. "Breathe with me, sweetheart." Slowly, she whispered, shielding him from the glares. Victoria raised her voice again. "This is exactly why single mothers don't belong in high-powered roles. They're distracted, unreliable." Robert, seated in the third chair, looked down at his shoes. Kesha had saved his job just 3 months ago when he made a mistake that nearly cost the company $200,000. She stayed up all night fixing a tand, took no credit, but now he said nothing. Security arrived. "Escort her out," Victoria ordered, her satisfaction evident. "Make sure she returns her badge and the company car." The silence in the room was deafening. Jennifer from accounting cleared her throat. Marcus from marketing checked his phone. Everyone knew Kesha was the best employee in the building, but no one dared speak. Kesha gathered her things in silence. As she glanced across the room, she noticed something. Victoria was recording everything on her phone, most likely to brag about her leadership online. That moment sparked something inside her. Jordan looked up with confusion and asked, "Mommy, why is that lady being mean to us?" Kesha straightened. Her voice rang out clear and firm. "Because some people confuse cruelty with power, sweetheart, but that doesn't mean they're right." With her head high and her son in her arms, she walked out. There was no defeat in her eyes, only cold determination. As she waited for the elevator, she whispered, "Mommy is going to show them what happens when they underestimate an intelligent black woman." Victoria had no idea she had just created her worst enemy. 2 hours later, the video was live on Victoria's personal LinkedIn. The caption read, "Effective leadership means making tough decisions. We can't let emotions compromise professionalism. #responsible leadership, #professional standards." The post had hundreds of likes and comments, all praising Victoria for her bravery. Kesha read each comment, noting names, job titles, companies. Her mind worked like a machine. "Mommy, why are you crying?" Jordan asked, playing with his only toy, a broken, wheeled-less car she'd salvaged and fixed. "I'm not crying, sweetheart. I'm planning." She opened her old laptop and began digging. Victoria's professional background, her father's minority stake in Morrison & Associates, her spotless privilege. She had never worked anywhere else, never earned anything the hard way. Worse, her Instagram was filled with tasteless posts, lavish parties, luxury vacations, and thinly veiled insults toward people who don't work hard enough. That same day, Kesha's health insurance was canceled retroactively because she'd been terminated for cause. All benefits were revoked. Jordan's inhaler now cost $230. Her bank account had $340. Rent was $800. No food money, no room to breathe. But then she remembered something her mother once said, when Kesha was 16 and their landlord tried to evict them. Rich people always leave clues, and clues can be followed. Her mother found out the landlord was charging illegal rent. One anonymous call to City Hall exposed it all. Intelligence always beats brute force, she used to whisper. Now, at 29, Kesha finally understood. She created a folder titled Project Victoria. Inside, every social media post, screenshots, captions, comments. She discovered that Victoria had a pattern comments that subtly demeaned women, minorities, and single parents. Always subtle enough to avoid lawsuits, but clear enough to reveal her bias. Then the phone rang. It was Jennifer from Accounting Kesha. "I'm so sorry. What happened was awful." Her voice trembled. "I wanted to tell you. Some of us are thinking about filing a complaint with HR." Kesha stared at her screen, lips tightening into the beginning of a smile. "Thanks, Jen," she said. Her plan was already in motion, and Victoria Crawford was about to learn what true leadership really looks like. Kesha paused on the phone, her voice steady but her mind racing. "Would you risk it for me?" she asked Jennifer quietly. There was a beat of silence. Jennifer nodded on the other end. "Yes, by the way," Kesha added casually, "do you still have access to the company's shared file system?" "Yeah, why?" "Oh, nothing. Just curious about some old policy documents." After hanging up, Kesha allowed herself the first genuine smile of the day. Jennifer didn't realize it, but she had just become an unwitting key to something much bigger. That night, after Jordan had fallen asleep, Kesha stayed up until 3 a.m., digging through files and company records. What she found sent a chill through her. In the past 2 years, Victoria Crawford had fired 17 employees. 15 were women, 12 were people of color. Every single termination followed the same pattern: cultural incompatibility or lack of alignment with company standards, often triggered by personal emergencies. The real message was clear. Anyone with a life outside the office was expendable. Kesha also discovered a lawsuit from 3 years ago. An employee had filed a discrimination suit against Victoria. The case had vanished quietly after a large financial settlement that included a gag order. Kesha picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in 2 years. A sleepy voice answered. "Hello, Marcus. It's Kesha. I know it's late, but I need a favor." Marcus Williams, her former business school classmate, now worked as a private investigator specializing in corporate misconduct. More importantly, he had once uncovered critical information that saved his marriage. "Kesha, girl, it's 3 a.m. Are you okay?" "Not exactly," she said, "but I will be." She told him everything, every detail, every insult, every threat, every humiliation. When she finished, Marcus was silent. "This Victoria sounds like a real gem," he said sarcastically. "Send me everything you've got, and Kesha." "Yes, when I'm done investigating her." She wished she never knew your name. As Kesha emailed the files, she felt something she hadn't in a long time: hope. It was wrapped in cold, razor-sharp determination. Victoria had made a fatal error. She confused privilege with power. But real power, Kesha knew, came from knowledge, strategy, and timing. In the dim kitchen of her cramped apartment, surrounded by overdue bills and worry for her son's health, Kesha was building something Victoria could never purchase: a plan, forged by a woman who had learned to fight smart, not loud. What Victoria didn't realize was that every smug social post, every offhand insult, every termination was a breadcrumb, and Kesha was gathering the whole trail. A week later, the fallout began. Kesha noticed her job applications were being rejected more frequently. First, vague excuses, budget adjustments, restructuring. Then, one company was more direct. "Look," the HR manager said, trying to be kind, "I got an informal call about your work history. I'm not supposed to consider it, but I also can't ignore it." It was clear Victoria wasn't content with firing her. She was sabotaging her future, one reference at a time. That afternoon, Marcus called back. "You're not going to believe what I found." Kesha gripped the phone. "Victoria Crawford has a decade-long pattern," he said. 15 firings, all minorities, all women, most single mothers. And get this, she documents everything. Kesha's stomach turned. Marcus continued. "She keeps a private digital folder: photos, email printouts, even secret recordings of employees she considers problems, like trophies. And yes, there are photos of you, taken without your knowledge, comments about your appearance, speculation about your personal life. It's sick. Kesha closed her eyes. She wasn't surprised. She was disgusted. How did you get this? She asked. Let's just say she's not as smart as she thinks when it comes to cybersecurity. Marcus replied, There's more, he added. She's part of a private WhatsApp group, female executives around the city. They share notes on undesirable employees. It's a blacklist. Victoria Crawford wasn't just a toxic boss. She was part of a quiet, coordinated network of corporate discrimination. Meanwhile, things were worsening at home. Jordan's asthma flared. 2 emergency room visits in 1 week. No insurance. Kesha spent her last $300 on medication and urgent care. And then fate stepped in as she sat in the hospital waiting room. A familiar voice called out, Kesha. It was Diana Santos, a former colleague from Morrison & Associates. She'd been fired 6 months earlier, also by Victoria. Her offense, requesting time off to care for her mother during chemotherapy. Diana, Kesha whispered, standing to hug her. It's been too long. They sat together for 2 hours in the hospital cafeteria. Diana revealed what Kesha had suspected. Victoria had sabotaged her career, spread rumors about her mental stability, created toxic conditions to force mistakes, then used those mistakes to justify her firing. You know what hurts the most? Diana said, stirring her cold coffee. She does it because she can. Because women like us don't have the resources to fight back. Kesha leaned forward. But what if I told you, maybe we do? Diana looked up. What do you mean? Kesha told her everything about Marcus, the investigation, the secret files. She watched as Diana's eyes welled up not from sadness, but from long-awaited hope. I want to help, Diana said. I saved everything, emails, messages, her comments. Something told me I'd need them. That night, Kesha created a WhatsApp group project. Justice. She added. Diana then reached out to 4 other women who had worked under Victoria. Each had a story. Each had receipts. What Victoria never understood was that her obsession with controlling others left a trail of digital breadcrumbs. Now, the very things she hoarded as proof of her power were being turned into a case file, one built by the very women she had tried to erase. The reckoning had begun, and Kesha was leading it. That evening, Kesha received a message from Marcus. Kesha, I got into the company's financial records. Victoria's been embezzling money from the employee training fund to finance her personal travel. We've got her. Kesha looked at Jordan, asleep on the couch, his inhaler safely by his side. For the first time in weeks, a smile crept across her face, not one of joy, but of fierce, knowing resolve. She had just assembled all the pieces of a puzzle that would lead her enemy to a downfall so complete, Victoria Crawford wouldn't know what hit her. For years, Victoria had collected trophies of people she'd destroyed. Now, she had unknowingly become one, her arrogance, outmatched by the strategic brilliance of someone she'd underestimated. 3 weeks after the fateful hospital meeting, Marcus called again, voice trembling with excitement. Kesha, something huge just happened. Victoria fired someone else, a white woman. But not just anyone. Jennifer Walsh, daughter of Senator Walsh, the same senator who's running for governor on a platform of family values and support for working moms. She had no idea who she was messing with. Jennifer Walsh was furious and powerful. Marcus had told her about the evidence file they'd been building. She immediately said she had media connections who would take this national dot later that afternoon. Kesha met Jennifer at a discreet downtown cafe. But now, I have an entire TV segment dedicated to corporate discrimination. I just need evidence. Kesha opened her laptop. I have exactly what you need. She showed Jennifer the full dossier, Victoria's secret digital file filled with unauthorized photos, malicious notes, private recordings, screenshots of the WhatsApp group where executives shared tactics to blacklist women, proof of financial embezzlement, and 15 well-documented cases of discriminatory firings. Jennifer stared at the screen in shock. She's worse than I imagined. There's one more thing, Kesha said, opening another folder. Victoria records all her firings. I have 15 videos of her humiliating women, mine included. She whispered, it will destroy her. She destroyed 15 careers, Jennifer, 15 families, For her own satisfaction, Kesha said. She knew her actions had consequences. She just didn't think they'd come for her. 5 days later, the story broke. The television show America Exposed aired a 45-minute expose titled Corporate Cruelty, The Victoria Crawford Scandal. The footage went viral within hours. It opened with the now infamous video of Kesha being fired while holding her sick son. Then came the reveal. Victoria's secret files, complete with invasive photos of her female employees, screenshots of private messages mocking them, and derogatory comments scribbled alongside images. The audience was stunned. Then came the WhatsApp logs conversations between Victoria and executives from 5 other companies, plotting how to neutralize employee. And finally, the financial fraud. Victoria had stolen $120,000 from the company's training budget, funding her luxury travel through falsified receipts. At that very moment, Victoria was in a boardroom meeting with investors. Her assistant barged in, panicked. "You need to see this." On the phone screen, her face all over national news. The audio from the expose echoed down the hallway. Colleagues stopped to watch. Her stomach dropped. 15 minutes later, when the program showed the humiliating images and cruel recordings, Victoria's legs buckled. Her phone began to ring first, her father, screaming that she had ruined the family name. Then the legal department, informing her that 15 former employees had just filed lawsuits for harassment, discrimination, and invasion of privacy. Victoria Crawford, once revered for her leadership, now stood as a symbol of unchecked corporate cruelty. 2 hours later, she was escorted out of the building by security. Ironically, her dismissal was live-streamed on the company's Instagram, just like the terminations she had once proudly broadcast. The next morning, Kesha received a call. It was the interim director of Morrison & Associates, Ms. Rodriguez. "We'd like to offer you your job, back plus a promotion to senior manager and financial compensation for damages." Kesha glanced at Jordan, now happily coloring at the kitchen table with the crayons someone had anonymously sent weeks ago. "Thank you," she replied, "but I'm considering other opportunities." In truth, 3 other companies had already offered her executive positions after witnessing her precision, resilience, and courage. She'd become a case study in strategic leadership. Victoria had spent years building a legacy of fear. She had no idea she was simultaneously building the evidence file for her own destruction, crafted and weaponized by someone far more brilliant than she'd ever given credit. Later that afternoon, Kesha saw breaking news. Federal investigations were being launched against Victoria and the other executives involved in the blacklisting scheme. The dominoes had begun to fall. 6 months later, Kesha sat behind a sleek desk on the 23rd floor of Davies & Partners, now the city's most respected consulting firm. From her window, she could see the old Morrison building, now sporting a bright red for lease sign. The company had gone bankrupt. 15 lawsuits, a federal investigation, millions lost in contracts, and reputations destroyed. Jordan changed. Now, he drew superheroes in suit, smart, sharp, powerful. "Mom," he asked, holding up his newest picture, "are you like this lady? The one who saves the world with her brain?" "In the other, no, sweetheart," she said, smiling, "I'm better." That same day, Diana Santos visited, now a corporate diversity manager for a multinational firm. "I saw her yesterday at a supermarket. She was applying for an administrative assistant job. Minimum wage." Kesha raised her eyebrows. She looked at me, bowed her head, left the line. "She finally understands," Diana added, "what it means to be invisible." Kesha's phone rang. It was Jennifer Walsh. "They passed it," she said, breathless. "The Senate just approved the Corporate Discrimination Protection Act. Officially, it's being named the Kesha Rodriguez Act." Kesha closed her eyes, overcome with emotion. Her mother once told her, "True victory isn't defeating your enemy. It's turning your pain into protection for others." That night, tucking Jordan into bed in his own room with a real bed, "You can't stay mad at someone who taught you the most important lesson of all." "What's that?" "That people like her always lose in the end, because they build their empires on other people's pain. And empires like that, they always come crashing down." Later, Marcus called with more news. 3 of the executives from Victoria's WhatsApp group just got fired. "Kesha, the movement you started is changing the entire city's corporate culture." It was true. New diversity policies set off a reckoning. A year after her public dismissal, Kesha stood on stage at the country's largest women's leadership event. 2,000 women watched, tears in their eyes, as she told her story. Victoria, who once boasted about professional excellence, watched the broadcast from her tiny one-bedroom apartment. Unemployed, forgotten. Kesha concluded her speech. With quiet confidence, the best revenge is not sinking to their level. It's using their cruelty as fuel to build something so extraordinary they become irrelevant. The crowd stood, applauding. On social media, the moment went viral. Hashtag #SmartJustice. Victoria Crawford had collected trophies. Kesha collected justice. And she proved to the world that when dignity meets strategy, the most powerful empires can fall, and a single woman's strength can rewrite the rules for generations to come.